Alright, and we're into game one of Losers Bracket Round 1 DNKE Donkey Kong versus Tree Willowkeeper. Um, this is like I said, the Losers Bracket Round 1, game 1. Both these teams were knocked down in the round of 16, Willowkeeper by Denial Esports and Donkey Kong by Reason Gaming. The Willowkeeper versus Denial's games, apparently there's only one replay available, so I only got to cast one, and then the Donkey Kong and Reason ones will be casted at some point soon because I actually casted them once already and then there were some production problems, and I'd like to go through some other matches and forget what happened before I recast them, but I will do it, I promise. I'm sure everybody was they'd be so sad if I didn't, right? So I have to do it. But both of these are generally lesser-known teams. Donkey Kong, I think they've been covered a couple times, and Willowkeeper was covered on HoNcast, so there's been a bit of exposure for both squads. I think Marcus Moy is the only player on either team that I've seen before. I don't remember who he played for, but I want to say he was a DreamHack. I don't know why I want to say that, but I do. Maybe with the Reason Ringers or something like that. But he's the only player from either side that I actually recognize from previous cycles and matches and stuff. So there's certainly some pressure on him to perform because I recognize him, and this match was played like a month ago, so I'm sure that made a difference. And I was stalling for time in order to allow them to get in the first picking stage so I can start talking about the bands, which are Ophelia, Circe, Pestilence, and Warbeast. So, Oaf Warbeast from Willowkeeper and Circe Pestilence from Donkey Kong. Again, we see the Legion side banning out Pestilence, which is something that I think I've seen the Legion ban Pesty more than I've seen the Hellborn ban Pesty, so I wonder if the Legion side just doesn't want to pick Pesty, and they know that if they let it go, that Willowkeeper will take it. I don't see why you wouldn't pick Pesty yourselves if you're given the opportunity, but hey. Oaf Warbeast, technically that's two junglers, although we pretty much never see Warbeast run as a jungler anymore. He does jungle fairly well, but he's really passive, and he's not exactly a Tempest or something like that. He's not a super fast jungler. It's more of a situation where he can jungle, so he gets to a jungler, then he's really an ideal jungler. He's usually played, of course, in that suicide role. So really 4 different heroes and 4 different roles here as a suicide, a jungler, a support, and a mid are banned out. So those bans don't tell us too much, I think, other than heroes that these teams don't want to play against or aren't comfortable themselves playing and are simultaneously concerned about the other team picking up. Moving into the picking stage then, we have Engineer Kraken, and we're waiting on third pick here as Flux from DNKE, so a lot of ulti synergy here with NG Kraken Flux. Obviously, NG Flux considered strongly synergistic heroes, both in the laning phase where they do pretty well together, using that Flux pull-in to set up an NG keg, as well as later on using Flux pull-in to get everybody inside the energy field. And if you coordinate that well, especially if you put everybody on top of a Kraken ultimate, you can do a ton. I believe that DNKE has run this before. I think this is sort of their MO. I don't especially remember if they did this exact lineup before or if not. But I would expect now that they aren't going to run a jungler because, of course, none of these 3 heroes can jungle, and we still have a second banning phase coming out. And over here on the Hellborn side, we have a Tempest picked up, so I expect that most of the junglers, particularly Parasite and Keeper of the Forest, will be banned out on the side of Willowkeeper, although they really could have picked the Keeper there and run him as a suicide and had that Tempest Keeper combo, which I think would have been quite strong. Actually, DNKE is banning out Keeper, so yeah, these are just some really strange bans here from the Legion side. Slash Kid Rith, I don't really know what you're doing there, buddy. I assume that these are just heroes that they don't want to play, but I would say that at this level of play, like, that's not an excuse. You have to be able to play everything in the game if you want to be a competitively viable diamond tier team. You can't be banning heroes out that are good because you can't play them and you're concerned the other team is going to. But the Hellborn does pick up Bubbles, Tempest, and Wretched Hag, so 3 int heroes that are all relatively squishy, but there's a lot of gotcha potential there, especially if Tempest grabs Portal Key. Of course, Blink and Shellsurf from Hag and Bubbles, plus tons and tons of magic damages and some strong ulti synergy, Kelpfield, Tempest ult, and Bat Blast. If you line those up together, then they can do quite a bit for you. And I would assume that this is, of course, going to be a Bubble Suicide, Tempest Jungler, and Wretched Hag as a solo short laner. I don't really have any problems with that decision making. And I would expect to see, I really don't get this at all. What Legion's doing, banning a Keeper Grinix. They have two theoretical suicides here in both Hag and Bubbles. Probably gonna be Bubbles. Why are you banning suicide heroes? Like, they're not gonna run Keeper in the jungle, and so they could run him suicide, put Bubbles mid, and then Wretched Hag short. So they could play the Keeper. They're pretty much not gonna play the Grinix because having Bubbles mid, Grinix suicide, like, they could do that, but it doesn't seem really what needs to happen. You should be banning support heroes here. You should be banning, Torture and possibly Empath, maybe Nymphora, Master of Arms, like those types of heroes that can provide something to this team. Master of Arms can push, so can Torture, along with Tempest, and Shell Surf and Sonar Scream from Wretched Hag. You could get a strong push team going if you get either of those two support heroes. Nymphora's mana would be extremely helpful for all three ints over here. They're all heavy mana users. And of course would give them not a reliable stun, but a decent stun and a decent enough stun. I don't see the logic here of banning Keeper Grinix, and then Rab's fine. I think they could still pick up an Initiator here, assuming that they run the Bubbles Suicide. But I still feel like just ban the damn support heroes. Hellborn's bans, I think, make a lot more sense. Pebbles is a little interesting, considering they've already got the Flux NG, and I assume that's going to be run middle. Could be Pebbles NG, of course, so it's not really a terrible ban. It's a little head-scratching, but I can certainly see the logic there. And of course, Pebbles has been seen a lot less since he took some nerfs. Rhapsody ban, of course, because Rhapsody's one of the more popular support heroes here. And of course, Hellborn needs a support hero, and she could do pretty well with Tempest. Not quite as effective with the Tempest minions as she is with, say, Keeper minions, but it still does pretty well with that dance floor. Of course, Legion's looking for a second support here, and Hellborn knows that. And it's going to be the Andro second support, so that's why they banned the Rhapsody. Parasite, of course, banned out to take the last jungler off the board so that Legion can't pull a fast one and then run a jungler on them. So this is going to be a second support, or probably a second support Andro, probably going to be a primary support engineer. As we're looking for both a mid lane hero and a support hero on the Hellborn side, I think I'd prefer Torture, as he gives them a stun, which they don't really have too much of. Master of Arms is also going to be fine. I assume that's again going to be a support master. Master Push is okay. He's better at really anti-push than actual push. But really either of those roles he does well, and of course he does have reliable stun, so that's good. Like I said, I think I slightly would have preferred Torture, especially because between not only the push, but the AoE damage on top of Tempest, Hag, Bubbles could have done a lot for the Hellborn team. Of course, they could still pick up Torture on Master of Arms as a mid-hero. In that situation, I think I'd be a little less happy about it. I think there's better mids that they could probably grab. Pharaoh is theoretically one. Really not running mid so much, but I think he can do well in that role. Rally, Meraxis, Gauntlet. They basically need a strength stunner at this point, I think, because they have essentially no tank. Everybody here is going to be at 1,000 health for a lot of the game, or less. Legion side, meanwhile, looking for either a Suicide or a short laner. I assume it's going to be NG Flux mid, and Kraken's going to be a Suicide, or in the short lane, depending on what they pick up here. I think the short lane options are a little better, as most of the right-click carries have not been banned out, so I would hope to see that Suicide Kraken, and then possibly a Moon Queen or a Corrupt Disciple here, maybe a Sand Wraith, along with the Andro to sit bottom. I really would expect a right-click carry here, and I think I'm going to call it the Sand Wraith, because they only have the two, that would make a second melee and a Sand Wraith ultimate on top of everything else. Giving team fights would be very good. Dr. Repulsor, just fine as well, of course. Certainly is going to run as that short lane carry, but shouldn't present too much of a problem, and should do quite well against that Bubbles, who will be able to sit and leech XP. He should be boxed out a little bit by this Andro, but of course, since Bubbles has 600 range and Andro only has 400, Andro actually will have more problems boxing out Bubbles than Bubbles will taking harass from Andro. So it's going to be a decent lane, I think, for Legion. Repulsor and Andro will win that lane, but they won't completely prevent the Bubbles from doing anything. And there's the Gauntlet pick for middle. So that is going to be a support master, which I think is definitely the correct choice. I might have gone for a little more tank on the Initiator, maybe even an actual stun instead of just the Gauntlet Blast, his ultimate, because it is a stun, but it's, you know, on a long cooldown. You can't really consider ults usable, consistently usable stuns because of the CD problem that most of them have. Certainly Gauntlet's a fine pick, and I mentioned it earlier, but I think that potentially a little tankier hero and a hero with a more consistent stun like that Meraxis, maybe even Pharaoh with the Hellfire, not being a real stun, but being sort of half stun. Maybe a Magnus, that could have been pretty interesting. Of course, with the Master of Arms and the Master's Call, you get quite a lot of tank from that anyway. Let me turn on skip real fast, in case there is a pause. So we won't have to deal with it later. So like I said, I expect to see Doctor and Andro bot, Flux NG middle, and Kraken Suicide. On the Hellborn side, I expect to see Tempest in the jungle, Ratchet Hag in the short lane, Bubbles Suicide, and Master of Arms and Gauntlet middle. And it looks like that's more or less what we're going to see, as we see Bubbles is already making his way down here, and he does not have a ward, so he is not going to be warding this camp. Dr. Bolster already laying down an electric turret, as it's known, to scout vision, see if there is a ward placed, and he might just act like he's warding here to get them to try to counter ward, which would be a good play. As actually there might be some action going up here, as Gauntlet will find 4 heroes from the Legion side coming up, and an early ward goes down here from actually the Hellborn side on Master of Arms, as well as the Legion side. So 340, 324. So the Legion ward actually got placed first, but they might have placed that Hellborn ward from Fog, and as a result prevented the Legion side from seeing it. The Kingsman, of course, chopping down that tree, so this rune does grant vision, and it should block this camp right here, so Tempest can't farm it. That's going to be mildly annoying for Tempest, but not a huge problem. He can actually do pretty well just with these 2 camps right here. He doesn't necessarily need that 3rd camp. If he does want to farm another one, he's going to have to go all the way over here, of course, because the pull is going to be necessary for Wretched Egg up on top. And it looks like the lanes are going to shape up pretty much exactly how I called them. That's not surprising, considering this is really the expected situation. It's going to be difficult for Hellborn to get kills here unless they can hook the NG. Flux, even if he gets hooked in, probably won't die. There just isn't enough lockdown. Even with the stun and the Forked Lightning from Master of Arms, as well as the Infernal Instability from Gauntlet, I'd be surprised if he died. Meanwhile, Flux NG could get a kill here if Gauntlet plays a little too aggressive. He's going to be up in the creep wave a lot, so he's susceptible to harassment. And, hey, look at that. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So he's going to use a lot of regen early on, trying to stay in the creep wave and get CS, and if he's not careful, he could get killed. On bottom lane, of course, Andro and Repulsor, as they've actually already lost lane control. That was fast. So Bubbles is going to be able to leech plenty of experience up here, and even grab a few CS. Up on top lane, we have Kraken versus Hag, and I expect Hag to win this lane. Keeper probably won't die, but if he gets particularly low, of course, even with the charge, Hag can chase him with Blink. If she maxes Haunt and keeps putting that on him, then he will eventually be forced out of lane, because he is tanky, but you know, Haunt does quite a bit of damage, and it will prevent him from taking pots, and he does have a pot. He also does have some cold regen. So that was nice of Andro there to pull him some regen. Top rune's going to be camped by Engineer up here, and let's see if it spawns top or not. They better hope it does. It is. It's going to be an Invis rune, and that could be a kill on middle if somebody gets caught out. Of course, Hellborn has vision of that rune. They know it's an Invis. They know that Engineer is invisible right now. They don't know where he is, but really, they don't have to be super concerned about anybody, because both Hag and Bubbles can get away. It's unlikely, I think, that either of those heroes are going to die even with an invisible Engineer. I think the only way that could happen is on bottom, actually, as Gauntlet gets pulled in. Let me see a keg. I think they pretty much definitely should know he's here now, considering Gauntlet's getting body blocked. But on bottom, if you get the Repulsor Andro Engineer combination before he's able to get a shell surf off, especially with all this harassment damage, you could get a kill on him, I think, actually. Unless the tight cover comes out, in which case, yeah, that would prevent pretty much everything. Tempest, of course, shouldn't be in any real danger because, you know, he doesn't take too much damage while he's farming the jungle, unlike some heroes. Meanwhile, in middle, looks like Gauntlet's finally going to take some damage, and he's in some serious trouble as Keg actually was still available, and now he's dead. So, too bad, Gauntlet. Sort of what we expected is he just spent too much time up in the middle of the creep fight trying to get CS, got harassed down, and eventually got caught in a position where he was particularly vulnerable and took a death. So, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens one, maybe even two more times, and I don't expect the HoN team to get many kills here, even with, honestly, at this point, even if NG gets pulled in, Flux can help him out enough, I think, that he probably won't die. So let's take a look at the CS battle right here. Up on top, we've got Kraken at 15-1, Hag at 21-5, so clearly a one battle there for Hag, as he's already taken his health pot and eaten only two of his trees. There's the third, so he's now sitting on still plenty of regen, but he's going to have to be a little careful because, of course, trees aren't going to regen that fast. In middle lane, as actually Gauntlet hooks in Flux as he gets initiated on again, with Moa going down to grab the double damage on bottom, and a health bot being popped for Flux so he can get plenty of his life back. Master of Arms is going to harass a little bit. Fork Lightning comes out on the Engineer. He's getting a little froggy there, and Master's actually in a ton of trouble. Turret comes out, and that's actually be a kill on Master, so really aggressive play there. Not a good decision, and Gauntlet's now in plenty of trouble as well. With the Keg, nope. Actually, Keg doesn't have enough mana, so no grapple there. But, oh, there's the Keg, and now Gauntlet's dead as well. So at this point, pretty clearly one lane here for the Legion side, as the NG Flux combo does quite a lot of damage. Yeah, it's really annoying, that high-pitched whine that comes out when Gauntlet dies. It's extremely annoying. I don't know why they put that in there. It was a terrible decision. Sorry, up and top, as actually Keeper, or Kraken, I keep saying Keeper. Kraken takes out Wretched Hag, I assume with an ultimate here, just dropping it on her. Just drop everything. And then bam, oh, it's just so much damage. She just melted. That's awfully surprising. Anyway. So good play there up from Kraken, and Grapple coming in on a Flux, and he's actually taking a fair bit of damage, but the Creep Wave's going to block Gauntlet from getting any hits off. I'm not sure if that would have mattered. I think he would have lived anyway. He just has too much health. Still 200 after taking all the stuff from Hellborn. But enough that... oh, another grapple, and this actually is going to be a dead Flux. So well played there from Boxy on that Gauntlet. Actually was their Suicide player previously, so I don't really know if they're just switching the roles up or if somebody is not here or something, but interesting that he's playing the mid Gauntlet now as opposed to the Suicide. He played Grinix before, last time I watched him. So, as we were saying, going over the CS battle real fast, we've got the Flux at 18-5 versus the Gauntlet at 20-5. So actually Gauntlet's winning the CS battle, but of course taking 1 kill and 2 deaths, and of course the kill on the Master of Arms means that the farm really is going more towards the Legion side in terms of actual GPM, and of course Flux at 320 gold per minute and Gauntlet at 223 gold per minute really shows you what's happening there. Master of Arms is doing pretty well on the deny side with 4, but really not enough to stop this Flux NG lane from dominating more than anything else, as Kraken's in a lot of trouble actually top, and there's the Tempest ultimate to kill him. On bottom we saw a kill. Oh boy! Almost got it off with the Torrent and the Splash auto attack. Sorry, I'll go back real fast to grab that kill on the bubbles. So he's going to get picked up by Dr. Repulsor and the Shell Surf, but not going to be enough time to actually get away. Shoot, now I'm skipping too far forward. Look at that. As in middle, the Keg comes out on top of the turret, and that's a dead Gauntlet. Once again, that awful sound. So, Master dropped the acid bomb, which was probably the great decision there, actually, because the Fork Light takes burst damage, but I think they actually ended up taking more damage by sitting in that bomb than they did. They would have with the Fork Lightning. So nice play there once again from the Legion side, as they are taking a pretty substantial lead here. 2.5k experience, 2.5k gold, 1.5k experience. Just 8 minutes in this game. On the bottom, 35, Dr. Repulsor 45 and 20 compared to a 12 and 2 Bubbles. So Bubbles is getting handled down here by this Doctor and Andromeda. That's not particularly surprising. The death, of course, a good play there as Tempest is just getting chased down by Keeper. Where's the haunt? There it is. And they might actually be... Oh! Where's this... Oh! Nope. Now Tempest is gonna... Nope. Tempest is dead. Finally. Couldn't play Ring Around the Rosie for long enough as Tempest actually doesn't even have... He does have boots, but Kraken's a little more powerful as a Keg and a Church come out, and down goes Hag. So this is just looking ugly for Tree. Gauntlet comes in here on top of Master Room's trying to get a kill on this Kraken, but he's got Steam Boots. Flux is in here as well. There's a turret coming out on Moa, and there's a splash auto attack at any point on top of the turret. There it is. Gauntlet Blast comes out, but that's not going to be nearly enough as Flux pulls Gauntlet right back in, and he's dead. Jesus Christ, that's an annoying noise. Bubbles is now going to try to feed himself, I think. Yeah, don't go in there. So... Not even 9 minutes in this game, a 10-2 hero kill lead, and that lead that they had before has now pretty much tripled with 5.5k gold and 5k experience. The Legion team's substantially ahead in this game, and it looks like this might be an earlier on victory for DNKE as they really just destroyed this Hellborn side, and this is the one situation I think. This is one of the few games I've seen where a dual support lineup has really handled a juggler as a Bat Blast comes out on top, and there goes Kraken. Meanwhile, the bot tower gets taken out by Andro and Doctor. So, actually, Bowles gets pulled in, and there goes a Shell Surf, and he's going to live, but just barely, and Flux is going to chase him down and see if he can actually pull him right back in. The health bot's doing a lot to help out. The turret's going to not miss, but the Keg will. NG Field actually goes out, but just out of it is Bubbles. So he's going to end up being okay, as the Legion drop a ton of stuff to try to kill him. Flux is coming back in for some more, and he might catch his Bubbles now. Grapple nearly hits Flux, but not quite. Up on top, we see 3 players pushing this top tower. And this is going to fall. Release the Kraken comes out actually though, and Hag's in a bit of trouble. Not nearly enough as the Tempest Ultimate is actually going to go down, and Kraken will fall here. But once again, almost getting that splash auto attack off and taking down Hag with him. So Kraken only at 340 gold per minute. Poor him. He's actually out farming this Hag. As now Engineer's in some trouble, but he misses the hook, and Gauntlet Blast on top of Infernal Instability though is just fine. That'll kill him. Flux is pushing this mid tower with the illusions, and this probably won't be a tower kill quite yet, but it's pretty good harassment damage onto that tower. Up top, no rune. There's spot rune. No, it's already been picked up. So quite a lot of action here in this game. Not even 11 minutes in, already have 15 hero kills that we still see as the Gauntlet grapple comes in onto Flux, and he's now taking the Haunt and some auto attacks. Master of Arms is going to come in to cut him off, but the release does nothing because everybody is so close to him. And down goes Flux. Meanwhile, on bottom, nobody's pushing. On top, Tempest is pushing. So I was saying earlier that this is one of the few times that a second support lineup has done particularly well against the jungler, and that's, I think, true. Like, usually we don't see this sort of thing. I think it should be pointed out that, you know, they're up by 4 hero kills, but their gold and experience lead actually isn't that substantial. And it's even towers as well, so really the farm game here is better on the other side actually, as Kraken is in a serious amount of trouble. The Glacial Blaster going off on top of the Haunt and the Bat Blast, and he's now going to fall. That's, you know, Power Supply is going to go off, and he's going to try to turn around, but not going to be nearly enough. Flux is going to come in here, and actually Hag doesn't have enough mana for a blink. There it is. Activated. As the Master of Art call goes off as well. and he is able to escape the Flux. Tempest is looking for more as a hasted Gauntlet's coming in with the Infernal Instability on top of the Glacial Blast. Flux pulls everybody in though, on top of the Engineer ult, and Doctor's finally here. There's a Keg Stun going out, hitting 2. Tempest is in the middle of everything. Kelpfield is going to go out and take down the Gauntlet as well as the Tempest. Kelpfield actually doesn't take down the Gauntlet, of course, because they're on the same team, but Kelpfield's going to go out, and then the Gauntlet dies. So, solid fight there for the Legion side, using the Flux Energy combination pretty much exactly as it's supposed to be used. Pulling everybody into the energy field with the Flux Ultimate. And Legion side recovering their lead a little bit as they take a 12-7 hero kill lead, 4.4k gold and 3.5k experience. So they are certainly out-farming the Hellborn side in terms of actual, gold and experience. They're not out-farming them in terms of, the CS battle, I suppose, is the best way to put it, because they're down by 5 hero kills on the Hellborn side, and that's really where the gold and experience gap is coming from. Of course, farm is farm, so it doesn't really matter where you get it as long as you do. So Legion definitely in a pretty comfortable position here as Doctor flies in, grapple comes out onto Doctor, but that was some pretty weird mechanics there, and he's going to die. Jesus Christ, that's annoying. So Gauntlet's basically just been getting crapped on this whole game. He's 3-6. He's got pretty much half of his team's deaths, and only 3 of their kills, no assists, which is half of their kills, to be fair. But he hasn't exactly been doing that on his own. So Tempest is going to be scouted here, and he will back up into the safety of the trees as Andromeda throws an Aurora out to try to find him. In the meantime, they will try to steal some of these camps as Kraken works on some Wild Hunters, and they will also push middle. Hag's down here bottom. He is coming back mid as actually the Hellborn team is looking to fight this. Grapple goes out, hits nobody. And it looks like Legion's going to back off. It's probably a good decision. That they don't really need to be pushing second tier towers before the 15-minute mark. It's not something you see very often unless you're absolutely handling a game. While they are in a lead, they're not in that much of a lead. I would sort of like to see them split off a little bit and let each other have some farm. They are farming quite well. 320 gold per on Kraken, 340 on Flux, 447 on Dr. Repulsor. But all these heroes do need some substantial items, Doctor in particular. He is actually going to decide to go for the Light Rain route. It's a little interesting. We've seen the Icon more often than anything else recently on Doctors. But certainly the Light Rain, quite a strong farming tool. Icon, I think, is for a little more kill involvement, which makes sense. Early on he wasn't getting too many kills. He was being pretty passive, just free farming the lane because he could, and that was certainly the correct decision. He's going to go in on bubbles and try to take him out. Not going to be able to do so considering the Shell Search and take cover go off. He doesn't have enough mana to finish off the chase, but he is going to leave as Master of Arms comes in for some defense. Anyway, I think that the Icon, doesn't make sense for what he was doing earlier with just free farming the lane, but now that they've become a little more active, and they certainly have been active with 13 hero kills in less than 16 minutes, I think I might have preferred the Icon choice here. Certainly this is Doctor's time to be aggressive, especially considering how well his team is doing. There's a word at the end of that sentence there that I almost didn't put in. So I think they can really run around and find a lot of picks, get some treasures in that Icon, and get him some pretty solid regen. Which of course is, for a Doctor, life. Regen is life. It's Flux and Doctor both extremely low. TB ult. Invis Engineer heading through middle and into the Hellborn Woods to try to find somebody. Of course he is completely by himself, so there's that. There's a Rev Ward here on Hellborn's side, so we better not get too close, because he could be in some trouble if he walks into that ward. It's Gauntlet Illusion, of course. As the Glacial Blast go out on the Vagabond. So Engie will head back through the middle, and he has 13 seconds left with an invis, so he needs to put himself in a position where he's actually okay, because if he keeps following this, he could be a bit sketchy. He's going to block this spawn, which is nice, but I really hope it doesn't cost him his life. And won't, but just barely. As the turret goes out, as he tries to steal a couple games. He actually does steal that Dragon Master, so well done there. And they're going to steal this Dragon, excuse me, Dragon Ling or whatever it is, the Dragon Master gets stolen by Flux. So, good scouting there by NG, good decision to block that camp and get out of there with his life and actually sniping an ancient kill. As it looks like we're having a 5v5 engagement here in middle. Grapple comes in, hits Flux, as long as the Infernal Instability. There goes the NG field and the Flux ultimate on top of the release the Kraken and the Keg stun. Bad Black goes out, hits a bunch, and so does the Kelp field, but nobody's dead except for one. Now on the Legion side with Flux going down, but everybody on the Hellborn side is getting wrecked. Bubble's the only one left alive. Hag buys back, and we'll see if the two of them are able to stop this mid push or if they need to get the other team to back off. Shell Strafe goes in, but actually that was a bit of an interesting decision. Now he doesn't have it up, and he might get reinitiated on. So Andrew takes a health pot, and nope, it looks like Legion side is going to back off. So excellent fight for them there. Took 4, they only lost their Flux. They forced a buyout from Hag. I wouldn't even say forced, but they got a buyout from Hag. And at 364 gold per minute, like she's farming well, but she can't really be spending her money on buybacks at this point. She needs that Grimoire as fast as possible, and that's going to seriously delay her timing because at 360 GPM, it's going to take her quite a few minutes now. She's only sitting on 800 gold, and the light brand, she still needs the pattern, she still needs the orb. So it's going to be more of a 25-minute Grimoire than the 20-minute Grimoire or the 15-minute Grimoire. So that's really the point at which, do you even want a Grimoire anymore? Of course you do, because Hag just needs that item, but it's not nearly as effective as it would have been if she got it, 5 minutes ago, of course. I'm just saying obvious things, by the way. Bot push coming in, but Master of Arms is going to fend it off with his Acid. And middle, it looks like we're getting some group up once again, as 3, now 4 heroes are converging on here. Dr. Pulsar is top, going to try to stop that Wretched Hag from pushing in top too much, but actually it's Dr. jumps on her and manages to take her out, so just a bunch of damage done there, as I think Hag didn't realize how squishy she is, and the Portal Key Kraken comes in drops the Kraken on top of the Flux, but the Flux just lets him out. Tempest ultimate goes off, but he gets pushed to the energy field, and there goes Tempest. Swap comes in, putting Gauntlet right back in the energy field. The Shell Surf's going to go off. Kelpfield's going to hit Flux, but now he's going to pay for that. Master of Arms going to come here with the Fork Lightning, and Flux is still alive somehow. Dr. Pulsar finally jumps in, takes out 2 more. Hag buys back, but ports in and dies. So, GG. I'm going to say that was a situation where both teams laned very obviously. I think the Hellborn actually had a better draft. They certainly picked a more traditional draft, but I think, except for the Gauntlet pick, that was the only one I was really questioning. And he went 3 and 8, so hey, look, I was sort of proven right. But I do think Hellborn had a slightly better draft. It was superior execution, though, on the part of the Legion. They played their lanes correctly. Kraken basically did what he needed to do, get 6, drop an ult on Hag, kill her. Of course, Flux NG absolutely did their job in middle, and Dr. Pulsar got free from on bottom thanks to Andromeda. So, quick, easy win here from the guys on DNKE, taking out Game 1 against Willowkeeper, and let's move it to a Game 2.